Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you my spoiler-free review of Lost Roses by Martha Hall Kelly, and this is essentially the second book in the Lilac Girl series, I want to say. So I was really excited about this. I read Lilac Girls when it first came out around 2017, and I really loved it the first time around, but I totally forgot about it, and I reread it in 2019 with my aunt, and I just fell in love with this author and her writing and just the characters that she creates. I totally loved it. So when I heard there would be a sequel to this one, it's more of like a prequel. The way I see it, so the first one follows Caroline during World War II, this one follows Caroline's mother during World War I, and then the next one follows Eliza, who is Caroline's mother's mother during the Civil War. So we cover basically a lot of different eras with this series. I'm really excited for the next one because I was reading the author note, and that's how I know the next one is taking place in the Civil War era, which I think is totally interesting. But sidetracking, basically the concept of it, like I said, is that it takes place during World War I, and it follows Eliza, who is Caroline's mother, and essentially she comes from a very socialite, kind of rich family. I think in her family, one of them was one of the presidents, I forget, but basically, so she comes from a line of like American royalty, essentially, so she's very well connected, and she has this Russian friend named Sophia, who is she's one of like the elite kind of rich people of Russia, part of the royal bloodline. She's not part of the Tsar, she's like cousins of the Tsar, so she's still kind of royalty but has a title, but she's not like at the tippity top of the Russian kind of royalty line. And then we also follow Varenka, I don't know how to pronounce, I can't, let me just look it up real quick because I'm gonna totally butcher this. Varenka, I think that's how you pronounce it, who is a kind of a peasant in Russia. So basically the premise of this story, like I said, it takes place instead of World War I, it mostly deals with the Russian Revolution. So while the Russian Revolution breaks out, obviously Sophia and her family are at risk because they are part of like the royal elite group that was kind of being overthrown during this time period, and it kind of takes off from there. So similar to Lilac Girls, there's a very much interconnectedness between these three point of views. Obviously there is the connection between Eliza and Sophia, and then Sophia with Varenka, and they all come together at the end. But I was pleasantly surprised by this. I was really nervous just with the sequel because I loved Lilac Girl so much that I was worried that this one would not live up to my expectations. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It doesn't hold that place like Lilac Girls did, but I definitely really enjoyed this. There's something really about Martha Hall Kelly's writing style that is so engrossing, that totally draws you in. It's so atmospheric, the characters are so vivid and complex, and you really get to see their perspective for this, especially with Varenka, who is a peasant during this, who's kind of struggling with going with kind of the Russian Revolution, but she's very much struggling with her defining her place in this new Russia. Sophia, who's had her total life kind of fall out from under her, and then Eliza, who's very much struggling with kind of some family things, and then also kind of the disappearance of her friend. So I really love that. I think there's something really engrossing. Like, I could sit down and read 50 pages and totally be like, oh my goodness, no time has passed. Like, that's how good her writing is, and that's how you know it's a really good book. And the characters here are very different. I feel like my one complaint was this: I felt like I was just more connected to the characters in Lilac Girls for whatever reason, but I felt like this time around the characters were still very interesting. There is like the villain of the three of these characters, similar to Lilac Girls, and I will say, like, Eliza and Caroline were real people who had very strong involvement during World War I, and World War II, and Sophia is like a fictionalized character that is based on some of the Russian royalty, and Varenka is very much a fictionalized character as well. So the only kind of real character in here is Eliza, but I feel like her storyline in here is actually obviously fictionalized, just so you know. But I really loved the characters in here. I felt like they weren't as fleshed out as in Lilac Girls, and I wasn't as attached to the characters this time around. But I still really loved Sophia and Eliza. I really loved their friendship. I loved how just like determined and just brave Sophia was during this whole thing, and I loved seeing her journey basically from when we first are introduced to her to kind of the beginnings of the Russian Revolution and her dealing with the aftermath of that. I think was just so fun. And Eliza is such a spitfire, you know. I could see where kind of Caroline gets her rambunctiousness and her just kind of striving to just make the world a better place. Like, I really love that as well. Like, Eliza and probably Sophia were my favorite characters in here. And I really loved the Russian Revolution setting. Like, I haven't read any historical fiction books that dealt with this era, and I remember learning about this in school and I thought it was so interesting, so I was really struggling with trying to remember kind of the different parties in there. The only thing I remembered is that one kid was like the Bolsheviks is one group, and one kid would go like, that's Bolshevik. So it's like I remembered that, but yeah, it was just very interesting, and I definitely want to seek out more books that deal with like the Russian Revolution and like the Tsar and all that. So if you have any suggestions in there, like, I would love to like check them out, because it's just very interesting. But I felt like that was very much fresh, although this, like I said, although this deals with kind of World War I, it focuses more on the Russian Revolution side that was kind of going concurrently with the war, which I think was really interesting. Like I said, I haven't read anything like that, so it was really kind of unique, and it stood apart from a lot of the historical fictions that I read, because they do tend to be more World War II centered. So I really love this. So overall, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't like, I wasn't as attached to the characters as I was in Lilac Girls, but this is still a very solid historical fiction read, and I think so many of you guys will enjoy this. Definitely read Lilac Girls first, because a lot of the stuff that happens in here, like the characters, especially like Liza and Caroline, are already kind of set up in this literary world in Lilac Girls, so you might want to read them in order. I don't think you necessarily need to, but it does provide you with more character background. But like I said, overall this was a solid historical fiction read, and definitely one of my favorites that I've read in a while. I feel like I haven't been reading a lot of historical fiction, and this has just gotten me back on that kick of just kind of reading more of these. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if you read this book and what you thought about it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.